Good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to see you, and it feels like this year, I've been to a couple of the Master Investor conferences, it certainly feels this year like there's a lot more energy and interest in the room. I work in the mining sector, or exploration to be more accurate on that. The exploration part of the natural resources space has been smashed. To put numbers on that, I mean over to 2023, end of 23, 2 years prior, average minus 80% in Australia. So it's been really hammered. Lots of reasons for that, I think, and you know, it's probably not the forum or anything to go into all that, but I would say that the sector is absolutely primed from a value and very limited downside point of view to be invested into. Not just because of the value proposition, but also because of the demand-supply outlook in a lot of metals that are critical for our civilizations. So they're the opening thoughts. And afterwards, if anyone would like to visit me up at the booth, come up and we'll have one-on-one. This is a very quick summary. We have 227 million shares out, Australian dollars 4 million market cap, 2 million quid. We're down about 80% over that 2-year period as well. It's been a nightmare. We've since late last year, we've made serious rationalisations in the company. However, we've not compromised our ability to continue exploring, and in that I mean drilling. We have our own in-house drill rig. We operate every single day of the year. We are drilling into our prospects. The objectives, the business model for DART Mining is to attract joint venture partners into help us exploit and typically fund our various projects. And I'll give you a bit of a run through on the projects a bit later. So inbound farm-in joint ventures, that is our business model. We have one existing right now with the biggest lithium company in the world, SQM, who are presently funding all of our exploration costs around the only East Coast lithium project in Australia. We cemented that deal with SQM back in 2021, been speaking to them for about 4 or 5 years before that. So that was great for us, but they have essentially established a benchmark against which we can develop other joint venture relationships with mining companies. Interesting, in the sort of first and second tier mining companies, their pipelines of exploration prospectivity are incredibly thin. Big mining companies are no good at exploration. They typically will go in and buy and pay silly premiums and everything else once a particular commodity's been found. And I mean, BHP is a classic example. So the other thing for us is that because we have our own operational capabilities in respect of accommodation, transport, drilling, fuel, we do the whole thing internally. It makes us an incredibly cheap operator in the space. That means that we can say, for example, our cost of drilling on diamond drilling is like $70 a metre. The market's 300. We can potentially go out and drill other prospects which are not ours and actually farm into them, charging them effectively at $300 and earn equity in some of these things. So joint ventures can be inbound, and they're our preference at the moment, but they can also be used outbound. So operational, I won't spend too much time on that, but we are completely self-sufficient. We became even more so during COVID when there was a lot of shutdown. We had to be, like all the accommodation, for example, was shut. So we had our own transportable camps, and we have clawed back the capital that we originally invested in those 2 times over. And now they're essentially running for free. When we have a joint venture, we are, for example, charging accommodation into the joint venture at $130 a night, I think, which is like bed and food. And, you know, when you've got 10 or 15 people out on site, that adds up. So we're very careful with our money, and we like to operate as efficiently as we can. Our commodity exposures, so up the top, we are polymetallic. We have a very large exploration footprint, and I'll show that to you in a minute. But essentially gold, and that was the raison d'etre of dark mining originally, were historic gold fields in Victoria. So Victoria has produced 3% of all of the gold that has been mined throughout history. Very significant province for gold mining. Apart from gold, obviously, well, not obviously, but silver, lithium, copper, molybdenum, tungsten, tin, cesium, niobium, and actually there's not one on there, but tantalum. The main ones that we are prioritising, if you like, are gold and silver, the precious metals, lithium, copper, and moly. Our molybdenum deposit is Mount Unicorn. It is the 6th largest JORC resource molybdenum ore body in the world. 209 million tonnes of inferred, indicated and measured low grade but massive tonne porphyry style molybdenum. And moly's a really interesting metal, and it's made a comeback, and very few people know much about it. Current exploration campaigns that we're running are on gold and lithium, and as I speak to you right now, our drill rig is operating down at the historic Rushworth goldfield, and I'll talk to that in a moment. So there's our footprint. This is, if you like, that's the border between New South Wales and Victoria, and I'm sorry I haven't got a big Australian map to show you where that actually is, but you can see the Victorian state down that bottom right-hand diagram. That's the areas where we're interested. They're all up in the mountainous regions, which are known in geologic terms as orogenic. Orogenic deposits come from, very simply, subduction of the plates, creation of massive voids and huge flows of metal bearing superheated fluids. That's how they all arrive where they do. And so that's why it's no coincidence that mountainous areas tend to be very prospective for metals and minerals. So our footprint includes about 80 different geological targets across 6 work areas that we define. We have within that 9 historic gold fields. So what do I mean by a gold field? Typically something that was mined between 1850 and around 1920, during that period of the famous gold rush, both in California and in Australia, where there were huge amounts of gold that were mined and exploited. So we've got 9 historic gold fields. Typically, our Rushworth project is a gold field on its own. We ran what's called LiDAR technology, did a LiDAR survey over Rushworth. We uncovered 4,500 historic workings, all absolutely lined up beautifully along a 14-kilometre strike. We hadn't known that before. We had ground truth the area and come up with maybe 800 or 900 metres of strike. The LiDAR, which has been an absolute blessing for us, because it can see through canopy and vegetation, etc. And it's got a tolerance, it's accurate within about 10 millimetres. So you get an incredibly detailed view of the ground. So we've identified tracks, drill pads, all sorts of things, but more importantly, historic workings, all on absolutely consistent strike lengths. As I said, at Rushworth, 14 kilometres, 4,600 historic workings, down to a depth of about 40 metres. And I'll explain to you why 40 metres is important in a moment. But yeah, so it's a very diverse geological setting, dark mining, orogenic gold, porphyries, which are a geological structure that can offer up all sorts of metals. Usually one porphyry or another is dominant in one metal or the other. But our real, if you like, most important exposures are precious metals and lithium right now. This is an exploration pipeline, which I mentioned before, so that the idea is that you get them all over to the right. There's Mount Unicorn, it's Mountain View, that's a JORC resource gold thing, small, but lots of potential additional ounces that we can add to Mount Unicorn, granite flats at copper gold play, etc. But that's just to give you an idea of the diversity of projects. We group them depending on which work areas they're in and that sort of thing. The work schedule this year is really about drilling out our gold project down at Rushworth. So there's a bit of mapping and sampling to be done on our lithium stuff at what we call the Dorchap lithium project. We've got a 3,000 metre drilling program planned and probably within 4 weeks permitted, and it's taken us 6 months to get the permits in and prepared and liaison with government and agencies and all that, because we have to put 2 kilometres of track in and some drill pads in pretty steep, gnarly country. But we've completed all the ground truthing or the mapping and sampling of outcrops within our what we call the lithium corridor. In other words, what they call fractionation zone of where the lithium actually is within what's called a dike swarm. We've finished all that. So all of the groundwork, all of the field work has been completed. The application for the tracks and drill pads and things have gone in, and we expect some sort of approval on that in the next maybe between 1 and 4 months. I imagine we'll get approval on that. I think we're probably going to wait on drilling the lithium at least until we get more of an improvement in the sentiment towards lithium. But that's something that we discuss with SQM. We meet with them monthly we have a technical advisory committee. Myself and our head of exploration sit on that. We talk lithium with them. We talk the Dorchap lithium project with them once a month. So Rushworth, we've got an initial 1,200 metres of diamond drilling designed to test some historic workings. We're actually drilling underneath them to confirm some what they call interpretations of reef. So it's a reef-hosted nuggety gold deposit, exactly the same geology, and this is really important, same geology as the Fosterville gold mine. Some of you may or may not know the Fosterville gold mine, but it is the richest gold mine in the world. Of any significance. They produced 600,000 ounces there last year at an average grade of just over an ounce a tonne. Their all-in sustaining cost of production is 400 Australian dollars, and they're selling it for $32.50 an ounce. So the margin on that's just phenomenal. That's owned by Agnico Eagle in Canada. Was turned around, bought by Kirkland Lake, which was chaired by Eric Sprott. Anyhow, so further work scheduled this year, Rushworth, a lot more drilling. This is the first 1,200 metres. We've literally got tens of thousands of metres to drill there. We've got additional projects, including the Dart Gold Field, which is, I won't even bother telling you where it is because you probably won't know if I do. It's a historic gold field. It's vein hosted, quite narrow but high grade and repeating kind of structures along maybe 2 kilometres of strike. So we've got some work to do up there. Mount Unicorn Porphyry, we're not going to touch that until we can get one of these joint ventures in that allows us to manage it, and then people can supply the funding for it, and we'll go and do a lot more drilling there. I mentioned before, it's the 6th largest deposit of contained molybdenum in the world. It's low grade, but from our perspective, it still remains an exploration target, even though it's in resource. It needs a lot more drilling doing on it. We need to get into what they call the Pluton, which is often a high-grade area. We haven't hit the Pluton yet. We've drilled as deep as 1,700 metres on Unicorn, so it's had a lot of work and a lot of money done on it historically. We've got more field work to do at Walwa, which is a historic tin mine, actually contemporary tin mine. It was operating till 1975. There is definitely lithium there, as well as the tin. Tin and lithium are often associated, as most of you would understand, hosted by what they call pegmatites, which are like a rock formation. And then we've got the Buckland Gold Project, which is in and of itself a company-making project, Buckland. Huge, old historic workings, a lot of alluvial, and what we think we've found is actually the source of the alluvial that was mined back in the 19th century. 17.5 kilometres of strike and open to the south on Buckland, and up to 3 grams a tonne in soil samples at ground level. Amazing. These are just some ideas, just to give you some ideas of where we operate and how we operate and that sort of thing. So you've got, transportable containers for accommodation. You've got water trucks to supply the drill rigs. We do all our own wholesale purchase of fuel. That saves us about 20%, even more actually sometimes, on cost. We've got drilling there that is on, the one down the bottom there is actually drilling a pegmatite out on the Dorchap Lithium. That's DDH1, or one of the biggest drilling companies in Australia, and also one of the most expensive. But that was all paid for by SQM. Our core sheds and processing. We operate in all weather, and we've had metres of snow on drill rigs. We're drilling at 13, 14, 1500 metres in some cases. So we know how to do it. Now, I've deliberately tried to background you on the company, and I'm very happy to go through the projects one by one. If there are, who here has geological background or knowledge or no? And it can be really difficult, like understanding all the rubbish that gets thrown at you around geology, no question. But yeah, so Dorchap Lithium up there, Rushworth, Buckland, Unicorn, Granite Flat, that's a copper gold porphyry, and what we call the northern porphyries, where there's about 4 or 5 of them, one of which, Mount Morgan, is so-called dripping in silver, and other enormous and fantastic looking geochemical signatures which come from soil sample analysis that indicate porphyries too. So they're the projects. This photo, which is quite impressive, taken by a drone by our former exploration manager, that's what we call the Boones Dyke. So that's a pegmatite, and that thing has consistently gone 1.5% lithium oxide in that dike. So that was the first one that we found, and that bit that's lighter than the others was actually scrubbed off by me using chlorine to try and see what the crystals look like. But they're all what they call mega crystal, and the bigger the crystals in the pegmatites, typically the higher grade the lithium that's carried. So Dorchap Lithium, just a real quick location. It's up in the mountains. It's pegmatite hosted LCT, lithium cesium, tantalum pegmatite, so it's the right chemistry to carry the lithium. Typically the mineral species are that we've found actually 4 different lithium minerals within our footprint. Spodumene, we are spodumene dominant across the whole project, but there are other instances of pedalite, which is a lithium mineral. It's actually freer of impurities than spodumene, interestingly enough, and is used in specialist applications, lithium from pedalite used in glass and grease and things like that. But we also have amblygonite, which is a phosphate rock carrying lithium. There's no known process for extracting lithium from amblygonite, but and we have lepidolite. About 10% of the world's lithium comes from lepidolite. It's a highly toxic processing that they use, and it is only done in China. It produces fluoride, which is one of the most ghastly, poisonous. Fosterville gold mine, I mentioned before, we're 45 k's north-east of the Fosterville mine. And I'm not doing a big neurology dance here, but it's the same geology. And what they found at Fosterville, and we actually interact with Fosterville, they gave us the benefit of their science, and they've spent hundreds of millions trying to understand better their own deposit and the mineralisation associated with it and how better to tag it. But where they had enormous luck, but also very smart, was that they came across these reefs and they thought, you know what, this is repeating. And what they've discovered is that the deeper they drill, the more repetition they're getting and the higher the grade of the gold as they go deeper. Naturally, we tend to think, oh, yeah, you go deeper, it gets lower grade. But no, it's getting higher and higher the deeper it goes. So it's more than covering off their costs of going deeper. And this is why they have such a low all-in sustainable cost of $400. But the point is that our geology is very similar. We have the same geological model theory that we are going to see repetition of these gold or these reefs that are hosting the gold that we know is there. And actually, while I'm on that, I mentioned before the 40-metre rule, where the old boys got down to 40 metres and they stopped. And the reason they stopped was water ingress. They couldn't cope with the water that flooded in. So they hit the water table, didn't have the pumps to get it out. So everything below 40 metres at Rushworth has been preserved for us. And 40 metres is not deep, that I'm sure you all understand that. Oh, there's the drilling at Rushworth, Buckland Goldfield, Unicorn, Granite Flat, Copper Gold Porphyry, Northern Porphyries, and thank you.